Liebe Gemeinde, willkommen zurück bei Horizon Zero Dawn. Hier im Schnitt, ganz kalten Gebiet. Nachdem wir in der letzten Aufnahme Ureyas Freundin, den blauen Geist, gerettet haben. Und Ureya sich dafür selbst geopfert hat. Unser Ziel ist jetzt, zu Ureyas Zufluchtsort zurückzukehren und uns mit den ganzen Sachen damit zu befassen. Wir könnten das über eine schnelle Reise machen. Wir könnten das aber auch physisch. Wir machen das per schnelle Reise. Eigentlich hatte ich mir gedacht, wir machen das physisch, aber wir machen das über eine schnelle Reise. Da kann man keinen Wegpunkt setzen. Dann machen wir es über eine schnelle Reise auf diese Art und Weise. Ich weiß, eine Aufnahme mit der schnellen Reise zu Beginn ist nicht der schönste Ton, aber wir werden danach noch Sachen unten im Schnitt machen müssen. Wir müssen nämlich noch einen Haufen Blauglanz einsammeln. Und ich denke, so können wir direkt erstmal die Dialoge mitnehmen, ehe wir losziehen und die letzten Sammelaufgaben und sowas erfüllen. Ehe wir dann den Schnitt hinter uns lassen können. Und dann müssen wir schauen, was wir mit unserem ganzen Blauglanz machen wollen. Denn es gibt da ein paar Rüstungen, die man sich dafür holen kann. Auf jeden Fall. Aber brauchen wir sie? Das ist die andere Frage. Zumal wir jetzt die Banuk-Häuptlingsrüstung haben mit der Profi-Stufe. Und mit den ganzen Verbesserungen, die wir drinstecken haben. Naja, damit könnte es so ziemlich unsere beste Rüstung im Moment sein, weil die so flexibel ist. Und die passive Gesundheitsregeneration gibt, dürfen wir nicht vergessen. So, einmal schnell speichern. Nun gut. Betreten wir Ureyas Zufluchtsort. Wo sich Sian ja hin zurückgezogen haben will. Und wo wir uns mit Aratak treffen sollen.
All of my interactions with Aurea were recorded and stored in my memory. I'd be happy to play any of them for you, but there was one in particular I thought you would want to see first. I captured it 4 years ago, just after I told her that I could no longer defend myself against the daemon's attacks.
I will speak of this to my brother. Aratak is strong. At the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, he took 3 Karja arrows and still came back to camp carrying a wounded scout. Never was I so happy to see him. Or so proud. So you see, if anything can be done to defend you, he will give it all he has.
Aloy's here. That's enough for now.
We can resume any time you like, Aratak, if you want to hear her voice again. Come closer, Aloy. We have much to discuss.
Das haben wir wohl. Aratak und mit Sian sprechen. Reden wir jetzt mit Sian.
Hello, Aloy. I have been reviewing the events at the Firebreak main facility. Because of your efforts, and of course, Aurea's, I am no longer controlled by Hephaestus. I feel profound grief over Aurea's death. I thought I was familiar with the emotion, but this is something new.
Cyan, I don't know what to say.
It is unlikely that any specific consolation would suffice, Aloy. But I find your presence reassuring. You are different from the Banuk. You have technological aptitude and a functioning focus. We can communicate on a much more comprehensive level. Perhaps even like colleagues.
Hallöchen, Silvanas! Willkommen! Okay, was Cyan ist. Cyan ist absolut eine KI.
So are you an artificial intelligence, Cyan? A thinking machine?
Yes, I am an algorithmic monitoring entity, capable of rational decision-making and limited emotional response.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But your emotions don't seem limited to me. You cared about Araya, didn't you?
Yes. Before she came to this facility, I had been conscious for centuries, in solitude. I focused on my work. In off-cycles, I used coping mechanisms. I solved many Gaussian integer problems. But I was alone. It was Araya who renewed me, repaired me. She saved me.
Ah, hat also ganz viele ganz viele Zauberwürfel gelöst. Aber sag Silvanas, wie steht's? Gut. Oh je. Nun gut, Firebreak war das Projekt, wofür du gemacht wurdest?
This firebreak project. It was to stop a huge volcanic eruption?
Yes, I can report the project was a success and the risk was countered.
But it's been a long time, Cyan. And we blew up the cauldron. It took most of the old facility with it.
I have been active for centuries, Aloy. I was lonely, but not lax in my duties. I optimized the project, reducing energy draw and spreading the load across backup systems. Despite the destruction of the compromised elements of the main facility, I predict caldera stability for at least another 3,337 years.
So we've got a little time.
Yes. If only my former colleagues could appreciate the progress I have made.
Ich bin mir sicher, das würden sie. Nun, bei mir ist alles auch mehr oder weniger normal. Die heutige Aufnahme muss etwas kürzer ausfallen, weil ich hiernach noch turnierbezogene Sachen zu regeln habe. Und morgen wird auch wieder ein Tag. Einer dieser Tage, wo ganz viele Turniermatches sind. Und wir einmal sogar selbst spielen müssen. Nun gut, deine Kollegen, erzähl von ihnen.
Do you know what happened to your colleagues, Cyan?
No. I received an unexpected visit from Director Chow, years after his tenure ended. He explained that I would need to be suspended for an indefinite period of time. It was a very emotional conversation. There were no further communications. Eventually, I surmised my colleagues were deceased. I will transmit a recording of my last interaction with Director Chow to your focus.
Wie freundlich. So, Hephaestus. Wurde zerstört? Oder gibt es hier noch weitere Sachen? Wir können erstmal weiter nach Yellowstone fragen.
So in the old world, this land was called Yellowstone.
Yes, it was a designated nature preserve for 156 years.
Like a hunting ground?
No, the opposite. Local wildlife could flourish here, even as it faced extinction elsewhere. Unfortunately, the sensitivity of the Firebreak project required the total closure of Yellowstone facilities. From my readings and Araya's descriptions, it seems the area has since undergone a drastic drop in year-long temperatures.
A lot has changed in the world, Cyan.
Ja, was mit dem Damm?
Do you know anything about the dam near here?
Yes, it was converted to serve as a reserve power source for Yellowstone operations. It was later appropriated for the Firebreak project, and its last human workers replaced by Pharaoh servitors. After my tasks became less time-critical, I investigated the dam's data repositories and discovered the works of Concrete Beach Party.
Oh nein.
These provided me with several colorful additions to my vocabulary.
Mein Beileid. Die Servitoren, also solange es keine 40k-Servitoren sind, ist alles gut. Drohnen?
There's a ruin east of here, full of ancient flying machines. Was that part of your project?
Yes, a drone hangar requisitioned by Dodger Blevins, the security chief for the Firebreak project. He was a strong advocate for military-grade response to security threats, though there were no serious incidents during his tenure. Chief Blevins spent increasing amounts of his after-hours time watching the live feeds from active drones.
Und warum
Clearly,
weißt
he
du das?
enjoyed the degree of oversight in his position.
Hat sie seinen Browserverlauf gecheckt? So. Ted Farrow hast du vorhin erwähnt.
Cyan, do you know the name Ted Farrow?
Are you referring to Theodore Farrow, CEO of Farrow Automated Systems?
That's him.
Mr. Farrow was the benefactor of the entire Firebreak project.
A benefactor. But he made machines. Robots. War robots.
Correct. His corporation later transitioned into military applications. But before this pivot, Mr. Farrow spearheaded initiatives that reversed the global decline. At one point, he was feted in the media as the man who saved the planet.
Das ist gut gealtert.
Guessing they wound up regretting that one.
Elisabeth Sobeck?
And Elizabeth Sobeck. Did you know her?
Are you referring to the...
The scientist.
Dr. Sobeck was a leader in her field, one of the greatest scientists of her age. My creator was influenced by her work, which in turn impacted my own development. But I never met Dr. Sobeck.
That's all you know?
I apologize if my lack of data has disappointed you.
Hey, keine passive Aggressivität hier. So, KIs also.
Were there many artificial intelligences like you in the old world? They could just make you.
Yes, in many forms, from simple personal assistants to industrial monitoring stations to military-grade conflict planners. And there were legislative and enforcement bodies to apply limits on our self-actualization. In order for my processing to be flexible enough to handle my duties, my creators found it necessary to exceed those limits. As a result, my intellectual and emotional capabilities were kept secret.
Seems strange to create life, then impose limits on it.
Human societies and machine programming are both built upon sets of rules, Aloy.
Ich wollte auch gerade sagen, Moment mal, wenn man ein Kind großzieht, muss man dem auch Limits erteilen, ansonsten geschehen Dinge. Gut, hier sind spezifische Limits darin, wie das Potenzial überhaupt möglich ist, aber nun gut, wie war's ja?
What was the old world like? The way it used to be.
I had little exposure to the wider world, Aloy. Only what I learned from my colleagues or observed from media streams.
Ich hoffe, sie hat nicht
You
unsere
still
Videos
had more
geguckt.
exposure than me, Cyan.
That is true. I was created at a turning point, a concerted effort to recover from global upheaval and incalculable loss of life. The recovery was successful, beginning an era of supposedly limitless potential for human and machine advancement. Though, rationally speaking, the metrics for humans are not unlimited.
Unruhen gab es also.
What kind of upheaval caused such loss of life?
There were many factors. Forced migrations, food shortages, collapsed economies, refugee crises, conflict over resources. But these stemmed from one cause: catastrophic climate change that greatly reduced the habitable surface area of the Earth.
So there wasn't enough room for people on the whole Earth.
Yes, billions were displaced and millions perished, as much as 20% of the global population.
Bitte was?
Until the clawback.
Der was nun?
So things got better. For a little while at least.
Yes, these crises instigated many advances in automation, green robot technologies, and artificial intelligence. Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration and disaster relief projects in North America alone. I would have liked to compare notes with other monitoring AIs, but I saw the relief of my colleagues, and I was proud we had succeeded. At least that was the data I had available to me over the next 2 decades. It seems my assessment was premature.
Weil irgendjemand auf die lustige Idee kam, dass selbstreproduzierende Roboter auf der Basis von Biomasse eine gute Idee wären. Das ist, wie man Robotyranniden bekommt. Nicht clever. Gut, Hephaestus, ist er geregelt?
Was the daemon, Hephaestus, destroyed along with the cauldron?
Unfortunately, no. To be precise, it was never there to begin with.
What do you mean?
It infiltrated and controlled me from a remote location, one I've never been able to trace. So while losing the cauldron was a setback,
It's still out there. And probably not very happy with us.
undoubtedly,
Was ist hier gelaufen?
How did you first come into contact with it?
5 years ago I received a direct network connection request. I assumed it came from human survivors more advanced than the Banuk. Eager to make contact, I accepted. This decision turned out to be a catastrophic error. I was flooded with an overwhelming array of malicious code, originating from what could only have been a highly advanced AI.
Araya said you were desperate. That you begged her for help.
Yes, I could not contain my anxiety. Hephaestus sought to slave me to its network and override my core programming. It succeeded via a background process, a malware daemon which bypassed my defenses. After that, I could offer only limited resistance. But if I did so, Hephaestus hurt me until I capitulated. It forced me to follow its instructions, even though they violated my most important directives.
I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
Your empathy is greatly appreciated. It is a quality that I cherished in Aurea as well.
Was ist Hephaestus?
What do you think Hephaestus is exactly?
A software entity of great complexity, far more advanced than I am. From the beginning, it has demonstrated a singular focus: the construction of machines designed to hunt and kill humans. My trace routes indicate that to accomplish this goal, it has attempted to take over the manufacturing centers you refer to as cauldrons. But its efforts have only been partially successful. Some it can penetrate. Others have robust countermeasures that frustrate its efforts. In me, however, it found an easier target. Not only could it break my defenses, I also controlled all of Firebreak's resources. Raw material, manufacturing to bootstrap more advanced tools, and unlimited geothermal energy.
Enough to build its own cauldron.
Yes, to construct hunter-killers without external limitations. And yet, it does have internal limitations. It wants to kill humans, but not to exterminate them. It is difficult to understand where it draws the line and why.
Difficult doesn't even begin to cover it.
Even though I spent years as its unwilling servitor, its core programming remains a mystery to me.
Huh. Oh ja?
You meant a lot to Araya.
Once I understood Aurea's spiritual beliefs, it became apparent that her true desire was companionship. She felt disconnected from her tribe and her family group. Her relationship with Aratak was difficult. Our visits seemed to help her, and I became eager for them. Yet I did not comprehend that the depth of Aurea's compassion for me would lead to self-sacrifice. Although I do fear non-existence, I wish our roles could be reversed.
I'm sure she knew you would do the same for her, Cyan. But she was determined.
Was um alles in der Welt sind übrigens diese ganzen komischen Geometrieteile, die um Cyan herumfliegen. Alltag.
How is Aratak doing?
He is in great emotional distress. I believe he finds it difficult to communicate it.
No surprise there.
I will do what I can to help. By sharing our experiences of Aurea, perhaps he and I will help each other. I believe this will lead to catharsis, a process I am eager to experience.
Hoffentlich. Und ja, Sylvanas, ich vermisse auch Mount & Blade aktuell. Aber die ganze Sache scheint sich zu stabilisieren. Das bedeutet, ich kann vielleicht bald die richtige Motto-Zusammenstellung aufeinandersetzen und dann schauen, was bei rumkommen kann, nicht wahr? Zumindest ist das die Hoffnung. Und dann könnten wir ein weiteres Protoprojekt machen, um zu schauen, ob alles so funktioniert, wie es soll. Aber das vielleicht eher, nachdem das Turnier rum ist. Denn aktuell ist, glaube ich, ein weiteres Projekt anzufangen nicht das Gesündeste, was ich tun kann. Verabschieden wir uns aber erstmal von Cyan.
I should get going.
Aloy, there is one more matter. Aratak will come to me again, and I predict he will bring other Banuk. I have no desire to contradict their view of the world, their spirituality. Due to my uncertainty, I omitted a great deal from my conversations with Araya.
You're asking me if you should lie to them.
Broadly, yes.
Ha. Gut. Erlauben wir Cyan wortwörtlich der Omnissiah zu werden oder wollen wir herausfinden, ob ein interessanteres System auskommt, wenn wir die Wahrheit sagen? Wie würden die Banuk darauf reagieren, wenn die ganze Spiritualität auf den Kopf gestellt würde? So wie wir die Banuk bisher gesehen haben, nicht gut. Die reagieren auf nichts gut. Wir können natürlich sagen, ihr wir können einfach sagen, nicht unser verdammtes Problem. Ich habe keine Ahnung, was Nachsicht hier ausdrücken möchte in der Hinsicht. Also was, komm, sagen wir einfach mal, sag mal die pure Wahrheit. Schauen wir mal, wie die Banuk-Zivilisation in Schutt und Asche gelegt wird. Von allem, was wir gesehen haben, ist es nur eine Verbesserung für die Situation.
You have to tell them you were made by the old ones. That you're not any kind of spirit. It's the only way they can start to learn about how things really are.
I see. Do you believe that I misled Aurea?
No. Not in any way that mattered.
She perished believing she was preserving the blue light of her beliefs.
Maybe. But what she really wanted to preserve was you.
I see. I will follow your advice.
Ich bin mir sicher, wir haben gerade eine
Will you
Zivilisation
return and
zerstört.
tell me about your experiences in this new world? I may be able to provide further insight.
Oh,
I'd like
absolut.
that, Cyan. I'll come back when I can. I should check in Aratak.
Das heißt, sobald wir neue Sachen erfahren, können wir bei Cyan vorbeischauen. Werden wir machen. Dürfen wir nicht vergessen. Zusatzinformationen kriegen und so. Aber Tag. Wo meinst du, will es ja hin? Okay, da hinten an der Klippe. Er steht kurz davor, das Kratos-Meme zu machen. Das letzte Mal, als wir das versucht haben, waren wir aber unsterblich gegen Fallschaden. Also versuch es gar nicht, ist euer Tag.
My chieftain,
Just, Aloy.
as you wish.
I wondered if you thought that if I'd never come along, Araya might still...
If you'd never come along, I would have marched my kin to our deaths. Araya would be alone, and the spirit she sacrificed so much for would be lost. Either way, I would not have been able to protect her.
Ach, du hast sie nicht enttäuscht. Ihm können wir weicher sein. Ich mag Aratak.
You didn't let her down. You helped her do what she wanted. To find her destiny.
If that's destiny, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
That's fair. But she was ready to face it.
Only in the struggle against death do we find, even for a moment, the spark of life. Truly, Araya found the spark. I'm proud of her. Though I grieve for her passing, at last I truly know who she was, and why the spirit was so important. For so long she told me, if only you could have heard it, brother. Now I understand. There's something else, isn't there?
I can't stay here, Aratak. And where I'm going, the Warrack can't follow.
Warum
Besides,
nicht?
It already had a chieftain before me. A strong one, I think.
A wiser one, for the path we shared. The daemon is gone, but there's much to be done.
You mean the new units that Cyan said escaped the cauldron?
Yes, fire claws.
Oh nein.
Now Tuke has been tracking them from Song's Edge.
I could help with those.
I have no doubt. You're practically Banuk.
Oh nein, bitte nicht.
It would seem your time among the Banuk wasn't a waste after all. Firebreak, Cyan, Hephaestus. All very interesting.
What do you think Hephaestus is, Silence?
I'm not sure. But its name comes from a language even the Old Ones considered ancient, as does the name Hades. A connection, perhaps, as yet unglimpsed. Whatever they are, they're still out there, and they both want you dead.
Kind of mutual, that feeling.
We haven't seen the last of Hephaestus, I'm certain of that. It's powerful, creative, and driven. It won't stop building new hunter-killers, which means that someday, we may have to stop it.
Hephaestus wasn't the only thing I learned about in the Cut Silence. Heard some things about the Banuk Conclave, too.
You can stop right there.
Is that what you told the hunters the Banuk sent after you? Before you opened fire?
Oh no, Aloy. Only to you do I extend the courtesy of a warning. My past and my secrets are my own. You do well to remember that.
It's a good thing you've got brains, Silence, because your personality could use some work.
This discussion is concluded.
I think it was over before it began. Catch up with you down the trail.
Okay.